So what's up? We're here with Big Game Lane Willoby. What's up, Lane?
Nothing much. I got Riverside High School, 12th grade, and I started around summer 7th grade.
Summer 7th grade. Tell me about that. What was that like?
It was different. I'll say it's nothing like I've been a part of before. I go to different school stuff like that, and so I walked in there a lot more intense than anything I've ever done. And I mean, I was terrible back then, but it's helped me get through. It's made me a lot better, so it was a good time.
Well, let's talk about where you were training. Like most people train in Bellefontaine, they train in London, they train in Springfield, and they train in Cable, but you started in a unique place that most people haven't been a part of. Only a select few have been a part of that. Where was that?
It was the original The Barn.
The original barn.
Yeah.
What did it look like?
I'll say it was one basketball. I'll say it had some cows on the side, had hay and everything. You can see the equipment up in the hayloft.
Mm-hmm.
Got the work done.
Yep. Was it fun in there?
Oh yeah, it was a good time.
Absolutely. Yep. So the original barn is where we trained at. We're with Big Game Lane, right? I call him Big Game because Lane has big game. That means he's good at basketball. So the cool thing about Lane that I enjoy sharing, this is why I wanted to do an interview about Lane, is Lane was a kid that started with me, about 4 years ago in AAU. So he's been training for quite some time, but he started playing with me 4 years ago on my basketball team. I'm gonna interject there. Lane, what type of coach am I? Am I kind of laid back and quiet, or?
You're kind of intense. You're kind of really get in there,
Mm-hmm. Now you mean like I'm intense, like I'm just like?
I mean, you're a little loud. You like to really, let yourself be heard.
So apparently I scream a lot. How did you respond to that when you first got around that?
I mean, it's a little different to adjust to, but I mean, eventually you just know, showing you care, you want people to get better, so you kind of get used to it, and that's just how you are, so.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think it helped you or it hurt you?
Oh, it definitely helped me, got me, not worried about how people feel, like, getting your feelings, stuff like that, you just kind of took it and moved on.
Made you tougher.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So Lane started in my program playing for me, and he played for me for 4 years or 3 years? Me.
AAU was 3 years. Yeah.
3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Lane was with me for 3 years, and he did not start the first year. Nope. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys, right? I had somebody that was more skilled offensively, but Lane was a workaholic. And did you end up starting that year?
Eventually.
Yep, he ended up starting. He ended up starting because he is a hard worker. And so if you're a young person watching this video, the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is, obviously coaches know everybody wants to start. We know that, right? But the cool thing about Lane is a perfect example of a kid that I'm sure he wanted to start, but I never knew that, right? He never pouted. He never dropped his head. When I announced the starting lineups, he just would sit on the bench, and when I would call his number, that brother would come out on the court and work. In practice, he would work. And what eventually I decided to do is I decided to move him to the starting lineup because he literally outplayed everybody in his position. Then the following year, we come back, and I have other players on the team that are offensively more skilled than Lane. And did you start that year? No. He did not start again that year, right? And Lane probably wasn't happy with the decision, right? Like most people, but he never complained. He never dropped his head. He continued to work. And did you start that year, Lane?
Eventually, yes.
He eventually started that year. Did you lose your starting spot? No, he did not. So another lesson, 2 years in a row, a coach comes out and they see a player, and I'm being honest, the player that was ahead of him was overall a better player than Lane. What Lane did to earn his spot is he worked extremely hard to prove that the little things matter. And these are the things that Lane would do. He would dive on the floor, he would box out, and his player wouldn't score, right? And eventually he went from being a defensive and a rebounding monster to adding an offensive game, and he started. Because at that point now, the area that he was kind of weak in, which players had the advantage on him, was they were more offensive skilled. He added that to his game, and at that point, it was Lane's show. And he ended his last year in the program being coached by Coach King, Bill King, who had nothing but great things to say about Lane. And one of the things that he said to me that was super exciting, he said, this year is Brevin's and Lane's team. And Lane went from a guy that started training with me that was a kid that was just trying to get better at the game of basketball to his junior year, which would be his last year in AAU, to an AAU coach in the program saying it's his team. And so that's a great example of scripture, right? The Bible says in Galatians 6:9 that if you don't get tired of doing good, don't get weary of doing good, you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. And now you are living proof of that, Lane. What would you say to somebody that might be in a situation where maybe they're just starting and they're not seeing success? Maybe we've been training. Can you shine a picture of Dad real quick? The reason why I want you to shine a picture of Dad, because is it okay if I share Dad? Dad was a little frustrated after about 2 years of training, right? Would you say? He felt like he wasn't seeing fruit of what was going on. There was a part of he's like, man, listen, I'm not trying to be mean, but I feel like I'm not seeing anything. And Dad, I'm gonna let you share.
When Lane first started, he wasn't very good. I couldn't help him, so I was looking for somebody that would help him. And that's how he was introduced to Trey. Parents that are watching this, enjoy the process, because I didn't with Lane. And I got 2 other kids in the program, and I'm enjoying the process. Because with Lane, I got frustrated. I got mad because he would do good one time and then fall apart the next time. And Trey always told me, it's a process. They don't just come out and play basketball, it's a process. I'm very proud of Lane, and I can't thank Trey enough. I mean, I'm excited. I love watching Lane play. I love watching Trey coach. Trey is a coach. He can holler at Lane. I've seen him chew Lane out, tell him, he said, why are you here? You're not here because you weren't supposed to be here. And told Lane to go out and play basketball. And Lane never come home. Trey hollered at me down. He'll hit him, pick him up.
So one of the things I want you to talk about when Lane had been training for about a year or two, and you were kind of feeling just a little frustrated when you felt like you weren't seeing the payoff. I mean, just share about that, because I'm sure there are parents out there that are going through that point where they feel like we've been training for a year or two and we're not seeing results. Can you just share about that?
Yeah. I actually went to you and I said, hey, I said, what can we do? And you said that you kind of had to start over with Lane. Again, it's a process. They get better, they get worse, they get better, they get worse, and then they figure it out. I feel one of the things that Trey lets them do is learn at their pace. Lane would do some things just extraordinary, and then some things didn't. Like Trey said that his offense wasn't the best, and that was frustrating for me. You know what I mean? I wanted to see him shoot. I wanted to see him to score. And Trey showed me that defense is just as important as offense.
So blah, 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 blah. Lane, because Lane is a perfect example of fruit of the process. The kid that was raw. You don't have to be good at the beginning to be good in basketball. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Lane had 2 things I believe that every kid has to have in order for them to be successful, and I believe that this was instilled by his family. He was an extremely hard worker, right? So he worked extremely hard, and he loved the game, right? So he cared about the game, and he was willing to work, right? I'm sure there were times that he was frustrated. I'm not trying to sell the story that he got yelled at and it was all rosy every time, and I'm sure that when I would decide who my starters were, I'm sure he would be thinking, man, I'm putting in the work, when are you gonna finally call my number? I know that I could see that at times. His response is the right response, right? Instead of complain, you work, and you prove through your actions that you want something and you go get it. Here's a kid that I care about, that I love coaching, and what he would do is, even if, we'll just say Coach Trey made a mistake, let's say I did not start the right guy, right? Instead of him using his words, he used his actions to show, I'm the guy that's supposed to be in the starting lineup. And every year, within the second or third tournament, I come into practice and I would say, I've had enough. Lane, you're starting. He'd walk out there, and this is what I want to say to all the kids. He never gave up his starting position, because he proved not only to the coach, but to his teammates that he deserved to be on the court. And we had several kids on our team, Brevin, Trey Dunn, Scotty Hunter, that played with us as well. And the one thing that everybody would say to me is, give us 5 lanes on our team and we can beat anybody. Now, Now, I'm not saying Lane is a terrible offensive player. What we're just saying is, right, he wasn't averaging 15 or 20 points at his school, is my point that I'm saying. And we had other kids on our team that were averaging lots of points on their team. But what he became and what he proved is that if you're an all-around player and you're willing to do the little things in a great way, great things are going to happen. So Lane, it's been an honor coaching you. Love having you, Lane. Obviously we talked about Lane's work ethic, but when you talk about a kid with character, right, a great leader, this is a kid that, and his family, perfect example. In fall league and other things that we have, and now Owen has taken, this his little brother, Owen is kind of taking over the job now, but Lane would be the kid that would be at fall league, running the clocks and helping and sweeping and cleaning. And their family, contact us, anything you need, we got you, we take care of you. And so Lane he's a kid that not only do I know will make great choices, not just in high school, but he's gonna be a successful husband and a prosperous and a wealthy, not just financially, but health-wise, father. And God's got great plans and a great future for him. And I'm super proud to have the opportunity to just water seed that his family has planted. And so, Lane, I want to say on you on video, I'm super proud of Lane, and I'm honored to have coached this guy right here, Lane Big Game Willoby. All right, we love you guys. God bless.